So, thank you for coming in and sharing your experience. And your name is?
Deborah Vitaliano.
And Deb, why don't you share with us a little bit about your experience here, what you were here for, I think comes up in your story, and give me a little
Okay, so I'm going to
story.
read it. Okay.
You can read it. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So you asked to tell us about your success. Okay. It says many patients notice an improvement in school performance, work performance, or sports along with changes in personality and attitude. Would you like to share your experience of how vision therapy helped you? So yes, I would. I had an accident at work on September 5th, 2018, which changed my world and me forever. I had a massive concussion and fractured femur. The concussion turned my life upside down, and I could not do the simple things I once could do. I lost my balance, my peripheral vision. I had blurry and double vision. I had massive migraine headaches, decreased depth perception, decreased cognitive ability and concentration, and a flat affect. I was also hypersensitive to light and sound. I was not the same person after my accident. I lost my abilities to do simple tasks, but I also lost the person I was. The neurologist and PCP taking care of me had few answers for my recovery. Because my concussion affected my vision, I knew I had to get help from a developmental optometrist. Dr. Slotnick and I have had a professional relationship for several years, so I contacted her. I am an occupational therapist, and I knew I needed help. After a thorough assessment, Dr. Slotnick was able to explain to my husband and me what was going on with my eyes and my brain. With her guidance and therapy, I have gained many skills back. I worked hard and did many vision therapy exercises and activities at home each day. Gradually, my migraine headaches went away. I was able to read a book without blurry vision. I was able to work on a computer screen. I became less clumsy as my depth perception improved. What took the longest to improve was the motion sickness, dizziness, and balance issues. I was determined to gain all my skills back that I lost so I could go back to my professional duties as a pediatric occupational therapist. I was even more determined to find myself again. One day Dr. Slotnick said to me that I would never be the same person I was before, but rather a changed person with different strengths and weaknesses than pre-concussion. I pondered that idea for days. I had been on a search for my old self, but she was so right. My old self was gone. My experiences through this injury had changed me both positively and negatively forever. Dr. Slotnick and vision therapy have taught me to accept the new me and work to be the best new me possible. I have learned to regain my organizational skills by using different strategies. I've become more confident and self-assured as I move through my physical environment. I don't bump into things as much, and my balance has improved. It's not perfect, but I'm functional now. I feel more relaxed and less stressed about moving around in my environment. I'm more in control of my life now. Post-concussion, right after the injury, I withdrew from people because I could not tolerate the visual and auditory stimuli. As I was able to tolerate these stimuli, I withdrew because I could not follow a conversation and felt cognitively inferior. Today, I do not withdraw, but feel good about myself and what I have to contribute. I thank Dr. Slotnick for assisting me in my recovery. Dr. Slotnick, you were and are a blessing in my life.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean that sincerely. You knew what I was when I came in.
Yes, and I thank you, and you've got me all teary-eyed, and I'm so thrilled to hear your progress through your eyes, and that you've embraced this new you and the positives that you see having had this experience. Do you have any insights already, since now you are not just, when you first came in, you were a full-time patient.
Correct.
And then after...
Both here and physical therapy.
Yes,
Right.
here, physical therapy, and you also couldn't walk readily, and you had the knee brace. And we started with color therapy with you, syntonics.
Right.
And we saw some huge changes in the first few weeks just doing the light therapy that helped you get your bearings, get grounded. You were not working on vision therapy alone. It was a complementary effort with, the PT was, I believe, a little bit more just functional practical, but you were pulling on the auditory processing therapy.
Yes, I was using the listening program since I'm certified in it.
Right.
So that helped me also with this. I think with the syntonics and with that,
right,
that really helped ground me to know where I was in space again, because I really didn't. I was hanging on to everything before, even with my balance, it was not good, but I didn't even know where I was in space, and I had to hang on to things and my husband.
Yes.
I was bumping into everything.
Yes.
And I was dropping everything in the kitchen. I couldn't really function.
Yeah. We used some visualization techniques to also enhance the grounding.
Right.
We worked on visualizing grounding and also opening your higher extensions.
Right.
We visualized connections between your brain and your heart and your belly and all of your nervous system centers. I watched you do a lot of things early on that were new for me, so I got to learn from you and the other therapies you were doing. You did things like proprioceptive grounding. You would kind of ground your lips together or might even have pushed on your head on occasion to ground yourself.
Right.
And gradually I noticed you did less of that.
Right.
So that healed away. And like I said, you were a full-time patient when you first began, and then you gradually were liberated from the walking crutch and the knee brace, and then gradually also felt more stable on your feet, more grounded in space. And then you said, I think we're ready to part-time get back to work.
Right.
And you did a few months where you were just working in mornings, a couple of days of the week.
Or
was it all
every
days?
Day but 2 hours.
Only 2 hours, right.
A day, yeah.
And then you gradually took on a little bit more.
Right.
First, you had to partition yourself to be able to do reports. You couldn't be in the same room with the kids for long periods of time because it was overstimulating. You also needed to limit the kinds of cases you could work with because of physical limitations, I believed, but sensory as well. Has that shifted yet?
Yes, I'm able to do much more with that.
What are you doing now?
I'm not running around after kids, but I can do stuff on the mat now with them, using swings or obstacle courses and things like that.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Before I just had done tabletop stuff when I first returned to work for the first 2 or 3 months.
Yes, I recall that you just needed to be on a tabletop, graphomotor stuff, maybe a little visual perception,
visual motor, fine motor.
Right. What are the gifts that you would say are the positives that you now have because you are a changed person through the experience? Anything come to mind?
Well, I feel like as an OT, I always was very empathetic towards my kids.
Yeah.
But now I can really see the world through their eyes and what they're experiencing. You know, I have a lot of children with visual perceptual and visual motor problems, and now I see what they saw. I understand it much better because I experienced it. So I think I'm even more understanding. You know, and I think that leads to, for me, professionally, to be in a better place, to not rush the process for my children.
Yes.
And also I think I've become a more patient person with myself, a more forgiving person for myself, towards myself, because I always had very high expectations for myself, and
Yes.
that's why I think I achieved so much as an OT.
Mm.
But now I can be a little more forgiving and understanding of myself and my difficulties, because I do have difficulties since my accident. There's definitely, I do not have the memory that I had. I don't have the organizational skills that I had, or the balance. And I learned strategies to be able to function, which I didn't have to use those strategies before. I just had it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So now I'll be able to teach my students and my children I see in my office much more in terms of organizational skills, I think. You know.
When they're just available to you, you don't even realize what you're implementing.
That's right. And now I know how
to frame it.
To frame it, and what it's like not to have it, what it's like to have it, and how do you get from not to.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. I often think about it as when I start working with a patient, that I have a framework that I am creating for a potential I believe that they have within them. And I lay that out as this is my trajectory.
Right.
And I need to orient, how do I get into their shoes? How do I get into their eyes and their perspective, even their temperament, their personal behavioral components that help them feel like prepared to do things versus fearful. Those things shift as they get more confident, but those are the components that I think about in terms of the pacing of how do I introduce new stages, how do I enable them to start creating a framework. And so organizationally, a lot of that is a visual template. And I have it first as a visualized template in my mind, and then I start creating activities that have an experiential component so that they get that organizational mindset. And I think of them as the vision mantras that we bring up early on. Look, ready, touch back, and ready, aim, fire. These are steps that once we've got the auditory and the visual together and the tactile and the motor together, the kids can lean on that in just the same way that they learn to do the skills here. They start to translate them in other arenas. And that's usually the biggest sign for me that a person is ready to move forward, is that they start to make the connections on their own, and they volunteer things like, oh, this activity is similar to that activity. Or they see the parallels, and that means that they've got the template. It's rare that I have the vantage point as the practitioner to see a patient who has a brain injury before and after. And I hadn't seen you as a patient before, but I knew you as a professional, as you mentioned, and there was a drive that I saw in you beforehand that was very focused, and you were incredibly capable of getting things done because of that focus, and your organizational skills, your ability to see the big picture helped you to manage a practice privately as well as work in the schools, and to see who needs help and to make the forward-reaching requests to get more care for these kids. I think that you were very self-directed and directive in your approach to many things, conversationally as well. And that change in your demeanor of a little bit more breath in your space, air and room for yourself, patience, and just an easefulness in your presence, it's a very attractive shift that I believe is a gift.
That's the new me.
Yeah, it is.
Really?
It is, and that's it's a change. And there's nothing that you need to have back that you don't have. What you have right now is really quite lovely and incredibly capable of helping patients that I'm looking forward to continuing our professional relationship.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. No, thank you for sharing so much of your personal journey.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay. High five?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not every day that we get to celebrate a graduate.
Woo!
Are you ready? Okay.
That's so cute.
Oh,
Yay.
you look so good. You look fantastic. Okay, so today, my friend and colleague and patient, Deborah Vitaliano, is here to celebrate her vision therapy graduation. And today, I wanted to give you a little acknowledgement. Now, Deb has already shared her success story in the other room, but I would like to acknowledge you in front of this wonderful audience and tell you, first of all, certificate of completion for successfully completing an individualized vision therapy program.
Yay!
A shake on it. Congratulations.
Woo!
Cheese.
Good.
And so you hold on to that.
Good thing I was thinking.
Deborah has been here since September after she had an injury, and she shared some of that, which I will share with you guys in a little more detail in a bit. And I want to say it's not every day that you get to work with a person who knows the work that you do as intimately as Deb does, because she's an occupational therapist who works with kids of all ages.
Good.
And she has been an incredible support for our practice and for the kids in her practice and in her school, and has done so much to help us create relationships where they learn to grow and put the pieces together by coming here and working with her. And so it's really a special honor for me to get to acknowledge you and the work that you've done here. And I want to say, I mean, I knew you before and through and during your process, and at the end of this journey, this piece here, it's just such a pleasure to see how much more at ease you've become, how much more confident you've become, and of course it's so nice to see you symptom-free and smiling more, and that was a big thing that I noticed changing. And I don't know if you guys wanted to share anything that you observed just seeing her come through here the last year.
Definitely the confidence. I saw your confidence going up. I didn't work directly with you, but definitely I can see that from her. So I'm glad, really glad for you.
Really happy to see those shifts.
Yeah.
And so why don't you share a brief vignette, you don't have to read, what you feel is your success story that you want to share, especially for these young onlookers who may be graduating at some point, maybe even in a not so distant future. So what might you suggest to them as some words of wisdom?
Well, what made me improve so much was I took my homework very seriously, and I did my vision therapy homework at the beginning every day. That was my job, because I wasn't going to work because I couldn't. So that really helped me to improve, and even when it was hard, the homework, or when it didn't make me feel too good because I had balance problems and I would get nauseous, and my vision affected that. Even when it didn't make me feel too good, I found strategies to help me, and I persevered through it, and I did the homework anyway. So.
Thank you for sharing that. And at this point, your success story is that not only did you do the homework, but now you don't have to.
Yeah, I don't have to do the homework.
Right? Because when she's really made the changes, you don't need to
Yeah.
keep doing the homework.
Right.
Life is just better.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Any other thoughts on that front that you want to add that's better?
Well, I'm a changed person from my accident, and I've been able to accept that, and I've learned strategies to help me, because I'm not the same person I was. So, and Dr. Slotnick helped me a lot with that.
So without further ado, I don't want you to part empty-handed. First, you should know that we're always going to have an eye on you. And because you've had such a colorful journey, this is a little journal for your next steps. A very pretty journal for you to share your spectacular new you.
Yay.
And we can enjoy the rainbow that life has to offer us. And we can give some of it back. You're welcome.
So much. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And I now pronounce you graduated.
Woo!